if you stand at the bottom of a massive skyscraper and just look up, it's really easy to be completely overwhelmed by the sheer physical reality of it all.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you're looking at, what, thousands of tons of steel and concrete and glass just dominating the sky?
Exactly. But the crazy thing is, before a single crane ever arrived on that site, before anyone even picked up a shovel, that entire colossal structure was nothing more than an invisible thought.
Right. It existed completely in the abstract.
Yeah, just as a blueprint on a piece of paper, basically dictating exactly what reality was going to look like.
Yeah.
And, well, welcome to the deep dive, because today we are looking at a very different kind of blueprint.
A much more personal one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
one that's designed to build something that's arguably much more complex than a skyscraper. We are talking about building a millionaire's mindset.
Which is why we've actually shifted our visual backdrop for today's session. For those of you listening, if you could see our studio right now, we're sitting in front of this vast, really modern architectural cityscape.
It looks amazing, by the way.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I mean, it perfectly represents the concept of building your reality, which is the exact lens we need for what we're analyzing today. We are exploring the anatomy of modern wealth affirmations.
And the big question here for you, the listener, is, does repeating a script actually rewrite your brain's operating system? Or, is it just modern snake oil?
Right. The classic debate.
That is the fundamental mystery we are pulling apart today. And our source material for this is a highly repetitive, incredibly dense transcript of daily affirmations. It's from a YouTube channel called VYBO.
VYBO.
Yeah. And this text is specifically designed to be consumed every single day to, quote, manifest money, wealth, success, and prosperity. I mean, reading through it, it is just page after page of relentless positivity.
Oh, it really is. Just a constant loop of, I am a magnet for wealth, or I think like a millionaire.
Exactly. Now, our mission today isn't to just sit here and read you these affirmations. I mean, you can go to YouTube if you just want some background noise.
Yeah, that's not what we do here.
Right. Our goal is to tear this script down to the studs. Like, what are the underlying psychological mechanics actually hiding inside these sentences? Because whether you believe in the mystical power of affirmations or not,
Even if you're a total skeptic.
even if you are the most hard-nosed skeptic, analyzing the structure of these statements reveals this really fascinating blueprint for human motivation.
It's basically the linguistic code of ambition.
That's a great way to put it. And when you look at the raw text, the very first thing that jumps off the page is this glaring contradiction. I mean, it's huge.
You're talking about the passive magnetism versus the active work.
Yes. On one hand, you have these incredibly flashy, almost magical promises. Phrases like, I am a magnet for wealth and abundance, or money flows to me effortlessly.
Unexpected wealth comes to me regularly.
Right. Money finds its way to me effortlessly. It paints this picture of you just sitting on your couch, doing absolutely nothing while duffel bags of cash just magically fall through your ceiling.
Which sounds nice, honestly.
I mean, I wouldn't complain. But literally buried right next to those phrases, in the exact same transcript, you have a completely different set of instructions.
The mechanic side of the equation.
Yeah, the mechanic. You have lines saying, I work smart and hard, leading to wealth. I am motivated and productive. I am ambitious and driven. Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
If I am a literal magnet for wealth, why on earth do I have to work hard? I mean, the entire point of a magnet is that it just sits there passively while things are drawn to it. This seems like a massive contradiction.
It absolutely reads like one on the surface, yeah.
To me, reading this, it feels like the difference between effortlessly ordering a pre-built desk online, where it just shows up at your door.
Best feeling ever.
Right, versus having to manually assemble some incredibly complex piece of IKEA furniture yourself. Am I the magnet, or am I the guy sweating on the floor with the little Allen wrench?
Well, what's fascinating here is how the text actually bridges those two concepts. Because you're right, you can't be entirely passive and highly industrious at the exact same time.
It's physically impossible.
It is. But if we look at this not as a philosophical argument, but as a sequenced psychological operation, it starts to make brilliant sense.
Okay, a sequenced operation. Walk me through that.
Think about the dominant emotion most people associate with money,
Yeah.
especially, a lack of money.
Oh, paralyzing anxiety, just stress, panic.
Deep, deep financial fear. And when you are operating from that place of scarcity, your brain is in a state of extremely high friction. Your amygdala, which is the threat detection center of your brain, is just firing constantly.
Like a fire alarm that won't turn off.
Exactly. Your sympathetic nervous system is totally trapped in a fight-or-flight response.
Because it thinks you're in physical danger.
Right. From an evolutionary standpoint, your brain thinks you are being chased by a predator. But in the modern world, that predator is a past-due electric bill.
Wow, yeah. That is so true.
And when your brain thinks you're about to be eaten, it shuts down your prefrontal cortex. That's the part of your brain responsible for long-term planning, calculated risk-taking, complex problem-solving, all the things you need to build wealth.
You just get complete tunnel vision. You aren't thinking about a 5-year business plan. You are just trying to survive the next 24 hours.
Precisely. So what do those magical statements actually achieve? When you repeat, "Money flows to me effortlessly," you are actively attempting to soothe that nervous system.
Oh, I see. You're turning off the alarm.
You are trying to bypass the amygdala's threat response and just remove the psychological friction about basic survival. You are manufacturing a mental safe space.
Okay, so once that anxiety is finally dialed down, the physical state of your brain actually shifts?
It has to, yeah.
But wait, isn't there a massive danger that someone just stops at step one? Like, if the script successfully convinces my brain that money is flowing effortlessly, don't I just fall asleep at the wheel?
The couch potato syndrome.
Yeah. I repeat the magic words, I feel totally relaxed, and then I just stay on the couch indefinitely waiting for the money to arrive.
And that is exactly why those mechanic statements are woven in immediately after. The effortless flow statements aren't replacing hard work. They are creating the emotional runway required for the prefrontal cortex to come back online.
So the hard work comes after the panic subsides.
Exactly. Once the perceived threat is gone, your executive function returns. That is when a phrase like, "I am motivated and productive," actually has room to take root.
Because if you try to force hard work while your amygdala is just screaming in panic, it doesn't feel productive. It feels like a desperate, exhausting grind.
You'll burn out in a week. The sequence is the real secret here. It's a mechanism to bypass the brain's security system.
Step one, turn off the panic alarm with the magnet talk so that step two, you can actually utilize the complex parts of your brain to be the mechanic and build something.
Right. The magnetism clears the path for the mechanic to safely do their job.
That is wild. And moving beyond just feeling safe enough to work, the transcript undergoes this really fascinating shift.
It changes focus.
It totally does. It stops focusing on what you were doing, the hard work, and starts targeting who you fundamentally are. Because, I mean, taking action isn't going to yield results if your underlying self-image is fundamentally broken.
Action alone is never enough.
Right. So the source text starts leaning heavily into identity. We get lines like, "I am free from limiting beliefs. I think like a millionaire. I am the architect of my reality. I am destined for greatness."
We are moving from surface-level behavior modification into deep identity reprogramming here.
Here's where it gets really interesting. When I read the phrase limiting beliefs, I instantly think about the operating system on a smartphone.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
Yeah, so you have the core software that makes the phone run the OS, and then you have the individual apps that sit on top of it.
Right, the things you actually interact with.
Exactly. All of these mechanic actions we just talked about, working hard, being productive, waking up early, those are just apps.
Behavior apps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can download as many new, shiny millionaire habit apps as you want. But if your core operating system, your fundamental identity, has a bug in the code that says, "I don't deserve to be wealthy," or, "People like me don't get ahead,"
The apps will constantly crash.
the entire system fails. You self-sabotage. You sleep through the crucial alarm. You bomb the job interview on purpose. You blow the investment because the operating system will always, always override the app.
And the source text addresses this OS-level programming directly, and it uses a very specific word choice to do it. I am the architect of my reality.
The architect.
Think about what an architect actually does. An architect does not sit around wishing for a building to magically assemble itself.
Definitely not.
They don't complain about the weather, or the cost of bricks, or the fact that gravity makes construction difficult. They take absolute ownership of the design. They calculate the weight, they draw the blueprints, and they impose their will onto the physical environment.
Hold on, though. I hear you, but it takes immense effort to say, "I am the architect," when your actual physical circumstances are terrible.
Oh, for sure. It's not easy.
Like, if you are completely broke, isn't telling yourself that you're a millionaire architect just straight up lying to yourself? Doesn't this border on delusion?
It sounds delusional if you view it as a statement of your current financial fact. But look at the companion phrase the text uses.
I think like a millionaire.
Okay? Think like.
Notice it doesn't say, I am currently holding $1 million in my checking account. It is presenting wealth as a cognitive framework, not a bank balance.
A way of processing information.
Exactly. And this is where the neuroscience of affirmations, specifically neuroplasticity, comes into play. There is a principle in neuroscience called Hebbian learning. Have you heard of it? Neurons that fire together, wire together.
That's the one. Meaning the more you think a certain way, the physically stronger that specific pathway becomes in your physical brain.
So your brain is highly malleable.
Very. When you repeatedly force your brain to process the concept of being an architect, of being someone who designs solutions rather than just suffering as a victim, you are physically strengthening the neural pathways associated with proactive problem solving.
You're carving a new road in your mind.
And over time, that repetition physically alters the structure of your brain's network. Your brain begins to default to that proactive state automatically.
Wow. So even if you lose all your money tomorrow, if you have successfully rewired your brain with the cognitive framework of an architect, the ability to assess, plan, and build, you have the biological hardware to just get it all back.
You've built a machine that prints the money, basically.
Yeah.
And this raises an important question for you, the listener, to really consider. How often do we let external circumstances dictate our neural pathways, rather than stepping into that architect role?
Oh, all the time.
Right. How often are we just living inside a building that someone else designed, complaining about the floor plan, instead of drawing our own blueprints?
It is so much easier to blame the floor plan. It takes literally zero cognitive effort to just say the economy is bad or my boss doesn't appreciate me.
Playing the victim is biologically easy.
It really is. It takes immense sustained energy to say, I am the architect, so if I hate this room, I need to figure out how to knock down a wall.
But sustaining that level of architectural energy introduces a structural problem into the equation.
Which is?
Well, if you're constantly building, constantly working smart and hard, constantly pushing against your old limiting beliefs, you're eventually going to run out of fuel. Burnout is a highly predictable outcome in any ambitious pursuit.
You can't run the engine in the red forever. And the text actually seems fully aware of that threat, which brings us to the third layer of this transcript.
A maintenance phase.
Right. How do you maintain the momentum without completely burning out? The script suggests the answer lies entirely in how you perceive your immediate environment.
Let me read a few more lines here.
Okay.
The text says, I am grateful for my abundant income sources. I am thankful for my infinite prosperity. I am open to receiving blessings every day.
Heavy focus on gratitude.
Yeah, but then right in the middle of this nice gratitude sequence, it throws this massive, highly controversial curveball.
I know which line you're talking about.
It says, I attract money by embracing luxury.
The luxury mandate.
I have a major bone to pick with this line. I attract money by embracing luxury. I mean, does this mean I need to go to the mall right now and just max out my credit cards on designer clothes and sports cars?
Just to prove to the universe that your neuroplasticity is working.
Exactly. Because logically, that seems like a spectacularly fast track to being completely, utterly broke.
It's the classic fake it till you make it trap. Going into massive crippling debt just to look the part.
It's terrible advice on the surface. On the surface, yes. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, we have to look at the ecosystem of the text. That line about embracing luxury doesn't exist in isolation. It is surrounded by those statements of gratitude.
Right. Thankful for infinite prosperity, open to blessings.
Exactly. In this psychological framework, embracing luxury isn't about reckless consumerism. It is about actively cultivating an internal abundance mindset.
Okay, distinguish those two for me. What is the actual difference between consumerism and an abundance mindset when the word luxury is sitting right there on the page?
Okay, reckless consumerism is buying things to prove your worth to other people. It's purely externally motivated validation.
Flexing for Instagram.
Basically, yeah. But embracing luxury, in the context of these affirmations, is about internal worthiness. It's about refusing to accept a poverty mindset in your daily habits.
Give me an example of that.
Have you ever known someone who buys a really nice set of, good towels or good dishes, but they just keep them hidden away in a closet?
Oh, absolutely. My grandmother had an entire cabinet of expensive china that I'm pretty sure never saw the light of day.
Right. They only use the cheap, scratchy, broken things for their everyday life, saving the good stuff for some mythical special occasion that never actually comes.
Yeah, the special occasion is always someday.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what is the underlying psychological message they are sending to their own subconscious? every single day
Yeah.
when they use the broken, scratchy items. They are reinforcing the neural pathway that says, I am not worthy of experiencing the good things I already own.
Oh, wow. That's deep.
Embracing luxury is simply giving yourself permission to use the good towels. It is recognizing quality, enjoying it, and normalizing the feeling of being worthy of it right now.
I hear the towel argument, I really do, but let's be real for a second. The script uses the word luxury.
It does.
To most people, luxury doesn't mean a slightly softer cotton blend towel. It means a Rolex. It means a Mercedes. If someone with poor impulse control reads, I attract money by embracing luxury, aren't they just going to justify buying a watch they can't afford on a 25% APR credit card? Isn't this still a highly dangerous slippery slope?
That is the exact danger if you pull that single line out of its ecosystem. The key is what precedes it. I am grateful for my abundant income sources. It hinges entirely on gratitude for what is already present.
So buying things you don't have doesn't count.
Right. The moment you use a credit card to buy a Rolex just to feel wealthy, you are operating from scarcity. You're focusing on what you lack. True luxury, in this psychological model, is the ability to fully appreciate the resources you currently possess.
The good towels you already own.
Exactly. And when you combine that feeling of present moment worthiness with gratitude, you create a very powerful biological phenomenon. You actually reprogram your brain's filtering system.
Okay, I know the brain filters out massive amounts of sensory data just to keep us sane, otherwise we'd be overwhelmed. But how does gratitude change that filter?
You were talking about the reticular activating system, or the RAS. It's a bundle of nerves at our brainstem that filters out unnecessary information so the important stuff gets through.
Yeah.
If you are constantly focused on scarcity, the bills you can't pay, the unfair economy, the general lack of resources, your RAS will literally filter out opportunities to make money.
Because it's too busy looking for threats.
Exactly. It is entirely focused on confirming your belief in the threat. But gratitude flips the RAS.
It tunes the antenna, like when you buy a blue car and suddenly you see that exact same blue car everywhere on the highway.
Precisely. The blue cars didn't magically spawn into existence the day you bought yours. They were always there. Your brain just finally decided they were important enough to notice.
That makes so much sense.
When you actively practice being open to receiving blessings and thankful for infinite prosperity, you are programming your reticular activating system to scan your environment for positive inputs, resources, and connections.
So it doesn't magically create the opportunity out of thin air. It just gives you the biological hardware to actually see the opportunity that was sitting right in front of you the whole time.
The affirmations are simply the code you use to program the RAS.
So what does this all mean? We've covered some serious ground today, moving from YouTube audio to actual neuroscience.
It's a big jump, yeah.
When you really analyze the anatomy of these VYBO affirmations, you realize it is far more than just a woo-woo wish list. It is a highly structured, three-part psychological system.
A complete architecture.
Right. First, you have the magnetism, the money flows effortlessly, statements that soothe the amygdala, lower your financial anxiety, and clear the cognitive friction.
It creates the emotional safety required to act.
Second, you have the mechanics, the I work smart and hard and I'm the architect, statements that utilize neuroplasticity to rewrite your core operating system, training your brain for extreme ownership and proactive problem solving.
You become the builder.
And finally, you have the maintenance tool, the gratitude and the internal embracing of everyday luxury. And that programs your reticular activating system to filter for abundance, which prevents burnout and allows you to spot new opportunities.
It is a profound method for actively aligning your daily focus so that your subconscious neurobiology and your conscious physical actions are pulling in the exact same direction.
It changes everything when you view it as a holistic system rather than just isolated, wishful sentences. You are quite literally, what unwritten negative affirmations are you already repeating to yourself every single day without even realizing it? What passive, destructive blueprints are you currently letting run on loop in your own mind?
That is a tough question to ask yourself. Because if you aren't writing the script, someone or something else is. Take a close look at the blueprints you are drawing for yourself this week. Be mindful of the code you are feeding your operating system. And maybe, go ahead and use the good towels. We will catch you next time as we continue to explore the ideas that shape our world.